Welcome back, everyone. I am the Economancer. Today, we're diving right back into Warhammer 40k universe. This time, we're going to be exploring the Tau Empire through the lens of cybernetics. Now, the Tau are often regarded as the fastest growing, technologically advanced race in the galaxy. But the question is, how sustainable is their rapid growth? Today, we're going to be breaking down this with the Cybernetic Principles that reveal both their strengths and their critical weaknesses. We're going to be comparing their approach to historical and theoretical models like the USSR's cybernetic communism. So the question is, are the Tau setting themselves up for long-term failure? Let's find out. The Tau Empire is a perfect example of central planning in action, much like how early cybernetic theorists such as Norbert Wiener and Stafford Beer envision using cybernetics to drive economic and technological growth. The Tau have constructed a society where all major decisions are coordinated by the ethereal caste. This centralized authority directs resources, oversees technological development, and orchestrates military strategies, ensuring that every advancement is aligned with the greater goals of the empire, the good. So this approach has allowed the Tau to grow rapidly, developing cutting-edge weaponry, mobility enhancements, and a unified military force in a remarkably short amount of time. However, it's important to note that innovation within the Tau Empire isn't entirely top-down. The Earth Caste, the engineering and technological branch of the Tau society, operates semi-independently within the parameters set by the Ethereals. While they adhere to the general guidelines and priorities, Earthcast engineers also innovate independently in response to specific challenges. For instance, the development of the XV-46 Vanguard Void battlesuit demonstrates how Earthcast mechanics adapted technology for space exploration, filling a gap in the Tau's capability beyond planetary surfaces. Similarly, the XV-9 Hazard battlesuit, though controversial among traditionalists within the case, showcases how the Earthcast is willing to push the boundaries of Tau technology when specific demands arise. Despite this adaptability, the overarching structure remains controlled and linear. The Earthcast's innovations are always guided by the Ethereal Cast's vision, aligning them with Empire's strategic goals. However, this very centralization, while efficient in the short term, reveals a critical weakness in the Tau system. Centralization inherently limits the flexibility and diversity needed for long-term stability. Historian and economist Douglas North distinguished between two kinds of efficiencies: allocative and adaptive efficiency. Allocative efficiency, often seen in centrally planned economies like that of the USSR, optimizes the use of resources at a given moment. In contrast, adaptive efficiency refers to a system's ability to evolve and adapt and respond to unexpected shocks over time, something more characteristic of a decentralized free market. So the Tau excel in allocative efficiency, directing resources to advance specific technologies like battlesuits and weapon systems, but they falter in adaptive efficiency. Their centralized model optimizes for what the Ethereals deem most important at any given moment, but this narrow focus constrains their ability to diversify and prepare for unforeseen challenges. Much like the USSR, which achieved impressive growth in heavy industry and military production, the Tau have specialized in military technologies. However, when economic shocks or unforeseen threats emerge, a system so tightly controlled and focused on a limited set of outcomes struggles to adapt. In other words, even though the Earthcast's innovations so that the Tau have some capacity for adaptation, this process is constrained by a centralized vision that prevents broader exploration of technologies. By maintaining such a controlled environment, the Tau risk becoming too specialized, focusing their technological development in a narrow band that may not be sufficient to meet diverse or unexpected challenges in the galaxy. So to build on this, we're going to look at Israel Kirzner's entrepreneurial theory. Kirzner argues that allocative inefficiencies, like those seen in decentralized markets, actually create opportunities for growth and adaptation. Entrepreneurs detect and exploit these inefficiencies, driving the dynamic process of discovery and evolution within the system. The Tau, however, eliminate these opportunities through their rigid top-down approach. Under the control of the Ethereal Caste, there is no space for entrepreneurial discovery or localized innovation. Their society does not foster independent thought or rogue technological development, factors that allowed humanity during the dark age of technology to expand across various fields fields and build resilience against multiple threats. In essence, the Tao's reliance on centralized control and optimization comes at a cost. While they may achieve this rapid technological advancement, this growth occurs within a narrow band, leaving them vulnerable to challenges beyond the scope of their current historical trajectory. And this lack of diversity and this decentralization is significant disadvantage in a universe that is as chaotic and as unpredictable as Warhammer 40K. Now, in cybernetics, one of the foundational principles for system resilience is the principle of selective variety. The principle emphasizes that for a system to be robust and adaptive, it must have diverse range of configurations or responses. The idea is simple. The more variety a system can generate, the higher the likelihood that one of these configurations will be effective when faced with an unforeseen challenge. This principle is particularly important for systems that operate in unpredictable and competitive environments, much like the Tau Empire does in the Warhammer 40K universe. The problem for the Tau lies in their centralized approach, which inherently limits the range of configurations they can adopt. Their technological growth, while impressive, is directed in a single linear fashion, primarily focused on advancing weaponry, mobility, and battlesuit technology. This creates what we might call a technological monoculture, where the Empire's capability are concentrated in a narrow set of technologies. This narrow focus is akin to agricultural monoculture, where a single crop species is cultivated extensively. In such cases, while efficiency and yield may be optimized initially, the lack of genetic diversity becomes the ultimate vulnerability. If a disease or pest attacks the monoculture, the entire crop is at risk because there are no variations within the system to resist the threat. Similarly, if a new enemy or environmental challenge emerges that the Tau's existing technology cannot address, their entire empire may be vulnerable, lacking the necessary variety to adapt. We've seen this pattern before. The USSR's economy, as an example, was highly specialized in heavy industry and military production. However, when they were faced with economic shocks or changing global conditions, the system collapsed because it lacked the diversity needed to respond flexibly. The same fate could befall the Tau if they encounter threats that require this technological advancement beyond their current focus. The principle of constraint also comes into play here, another core concept in cybernetics. While variety is necessary, it must be balanced with constraints to prevent this chaos. Constraints guide and limit the possibilities within a system, helping it maintain order. However, the Tau's centralized planning creates an environment that is overly constrained, limiting not only their technological variety, but also their adaptability. By tightly controlling which technologies are developed, the Ethereals prevent the exploration necessary for a broader technological base. Without room for independent or decentralized technological development, the Tau system lacks the necessary exploratory freedom that could foster a more varied and adaptable technological ecosystem. This constrained, top-down approach forces them into a pattern of optimization rather than exploration, making their growth efficient but one-dimensional. If we compare this to the Imperium of Man, we see a stark contrast. While the Imperium's technological development is often chaotic and decentralized, sometimes even regressive, this chaos allows for a greater range of possibilities. The Imperium's decentralized structure means that various factions and rogue tech priests can explore diverse fields of innovation, from psychic technology to bioengineering and weapon development. Even though this often results in redundancy and inefficiency, it also means that the Imperium has a broader technological base to draw from when faced with a variety of threats. The Tau's approach, by contrast, stifles potential diversity. By placing too many constraints on technological development, they have optimized their empire for a specific condition, but at the expense of the variety needed to adapt when those conditions change. In short, the Tau's technological monoculture may set them up for stagnation or collapse if they encounter an enemy or an environment that falls outside of their narrow range of expertise. Another critical concept in cybernetics is the principle of blind variation. This principle suggests that in the face of uncertainty, systems must generate a wide range of variations without foreknowledge of which will be successful. In essence, systems should experiment blindly across a spectrum of possibilities because unexpected challenges often require unanticipated solutions. This approach fosters resilience and adaptability, as the system is not limited to one path but instead has a multitude of options that can be refined and optimized over time. The Tao's technological system, while not entirely top-down, still lacks the decentralized experimentation seen in other factions. The Earth caste engineers play a critical role in responding to immediate threats and specific challenges, such as adapting technology during the Tyranid invasion of the Hive Fleet Gorgon. In this instance, Earthcast mechanics had to quickly innovate to meet a specialized demand for fighting Tyranid organisms, demonstrating their capacity for responsive development. However, these innovations occur within a predefined framework established by the ethereal caste. Because the Earth caste operates under the thumb of the ethereal's overarching strategy, their technological advancements are generally reactionary rather than exploratory. The innovations made are designed to solve immediate problems rather than to explore a wide spectrum of possibilities that might provide long-term solutions. This contrasts sharply with factions like the Imperium of Man, where technological development is chaotic and unregulated. Despite the inefficiencies and redundancies that emerge from this chaos, it provides the Imperium with a wide variety of technological solutions, some of which can be refined and deployed rapidly when new challenges arise. In contrast, if we look at human technological evolution at its peak during the dark age of technology, we see a strikingly different pattern from the Tao and I guess you could say even the modern Imperium. Humanity's advancements came through chaotic trial and error, processes where a wide spectrum of technologies ranging from biological engineering to theoretical physics and even metaphysical physics were explored, right? The diversity and breadth of these innovations, many which were developed without centralized oversight, meant that humanity could adapt to a multitude of changes. This broad base of technology created the resilience needed for humanity to thrive even as the galaxy became increasingly hostile. The Tao's approach eliminates this blind experimentation, which is essential for unearthing unforeseen possibilities. Their technological growth is tightly controlled, reducing the emergence of diverse developments outside of the ethereal's planned trajectory. This results in a lack of complex exploratory behavior, which cybernetics suggests is vital for evolution within any complex system. Now, we can go back to Kersner's entrepreneurial theory, and we can see how the absence of a decentralized innovation is a major disadvantage for the Tao. In an open, decentralized system like the market, entrepreneurs introduce variation by experimenting with new paths, technologies, and solutions. This entrepreneurial activity acts as the blind variation that allows the system to evolve. It's not just about finding the best solution right away, but about creating enough diversity in approaches so that over time, the most effective ones can be refined and adopted. The Tao's rigid, centralized structure prevents this kind of dynamic discovery, effectively shutting down pathways that could lead to critical breakthroughs. The Tao's centralized model restricts this kind of entrepreneurial flexibility. Again, we see this Kersnian entrepreneurial theory highlight the importance of decentralized markets, where entrepreneurs are the ones who are creating this variation by experimentation down these new paths, technologies, and solutions. This is a dynamic process that allows systems to adapt by uncovering and refining all of these diverse possibilities. The Tao Empire, this centralized control exerted by the ethereal caste, limits the ability for such entrepreneurial discovery. And I mean, this hems up the Earth caste from developing new technologies and forces them into this specific directive given by the ethereals. This lack of broader experimentation means that the Tao's technological growth is constrained by the immediate needs and the directive of their leaders rather than driven by diverse and exploratory processes. And while we agree that the Earth caste's innovations are crucial for addressing those immediate threats, this lack of decentralized system for technological development this this over centralization, this forces their trajectory to remain linear instead of dynamic. Again, exploration, an exploratory model that allows for, diverse technological base is ultimately the strength that we really want to explore. And this is not just a hypothetical risk, right? Like, we've seen real world history play out this way. During the early days of the USSR's, cybernetic and economic development, central planners strove for optimal, efficient growth. However, when the economy faced shocks, whether from resource shortages or geopolitical changes, technological competition, the centralized system struggled to adapt because it lacked the diversity of responses necessary for flexibility. This is what's going to happen to the Tau. Their centralization, this optimization first approach, it's efficient, but it's not adaptive enough. And so the centralized model appears efficient and forward-thinking. It comes at the cost of the adaptability provided by blind variation. By limiting their technological experimentation, the Tau forego the chance to discover and develop unexpected innovations, making them less resilient in the long run. The Tau's inability to integrate this fundamental principle into their cybernetic model reveals their critical vulnerability, one that could spell disaster when they encounter threats that their current technology cannot address. Another key concept in cybernetics is the principle of recursive systems construction, often referred to as Simon's architecture of complexity. Now, this principle posits that stable and adaptable systems are built from smaller, stable building blocks that combine to form higher order structures with emergent properties. The more diverse and interconnected these building blocks are, the more resilient and adaptable the overall system becomes. Recursive growth leads to hierarchical systems that are robust, capable of adapting to diverse challenges due to their complexity and multi-layered nature. But if we apply this to the Tau, it becomes clear that while their technological development is advanced, it remains relatively flat and linear in structure. For instance, their primary focus is on the development of battlesuit technology, mobility enhancements, and advanced weaponry. These technologies are sophisticated, but they follow a limited hierarchical path that aligns closely with the Tau's military strategies. This focus remains on optimizing and refining specific technologies rather than branching into diverse, multi-layered domains that could provide greater adaptability. The Tau do engage in some degree of biological sciences, particularly through their manipulation of the Kroot, their melee-oriented allies. The Earthcast engineers work with the Kroot's evolution, enhancing their capabilities to create specialized fighters. However, even this approach, while valuable, is tightly controlled by the central authority of the ethereal caste. The modifications made to the Kroot are highly specific and directed toward immediate military needs rather than exploring broader applications of the biological sciences. This centralized and controlled approach limits the scope of the technological growth to a narrow band of specialized solutions, preventing the development of this diverse and overlapping building blocks needed for long-term stable and adaptable systems. Now, we can look at, as an example, the Horus Heresy. Humanity's diverse technological base allowed for rapid adaptation and resilience. Again, even as major segments of the Imperium fractured and collapsed, these recursive and interconnected domains enabled the Imperium to leverage a wide range of technological and psychic abilities, making it the most resilient faction despite its internal chaos. The redundancy and diversity of the Imperium's technological base ensures that when one segment fails, others could adapt and compensate. And again, this is contrasting to Tau's centralized and non-recursive development models that keep their system relatively flat. We'll go with that. I made a rap. Even as they innovate in fields like battlesuit technology and biological manipulation, they do so in a limited, centralized manner, and this lacks the depth needed for their resiliency. The ethereal caste, they're super efficient at directing this growth, but they don't allow for the overlapping and diverse development pathways that would enable the Tau to create a more complex, multi-layered technological base. And the result of this technological system is efficiency, but it lacks the hierarchical and recursive complexity seen in more adaptable and resilient civilizations. So let's wrap this up. The Tau Empire is an impressive example of rapid technological growth and centralized coordination that's guided by this ethereal caste vision. Their focus on efficiency and optimization have allowed them to make remarkable advances, particularly in military technology and mobility. I mean, I think they're even hitting like a warp drive at this point. But this approach comes with inherent risks, one that closely align with the pitfalls faced by the real-world centralized systems like the USSR. By prioritizing a controlled, top-down model of development, the Tau sacrifice the flexibility and adaptability necessary for long-term stability. The cybernetic principles we've explored, such as the principle of blind variation, the principle of selective variety, and the principle of recursive systems construction, all highlight the importance of decentralized experimentation, diversity, and multi-layered growth in achieving resilience. The Tau system, while efficient in optimizing their current capabilities, fails to incorporate these principles effectively. Instead of fostering a diverse and exploratory technological base, the Tau maintain a technological monoculture that is narrowly focused on fulfilling the immediate needs of their centralized command. Even the semi-independent innovation seen within the Earthcast operates within the constraints of the Ethereal's overarching strategy. And again, this limits their ability to create the kind of adaptive and resilient systems needed for long-term survival in the chaotic and unpredictable universe they inhabit. The Tau situation is reminiscent of what we might call banal socialism, because they're considered basically the good guys at this point. But the rapid growth and development, much like the USSR's, may be impressive on the surface, but without the integration of variety and exploration, they risk stagnation and collapse when confronted with challenges beyond their current technological scope. The efficiency of their centralized model is paradoxical. It's its greatest vulnerability. In the competitive and often chaotic environment of the 40K universe, adaptability is key. The Tau's centralized planning, while efficient in the short run, ultimately becomes a cybernetic track, one where their ability to adapt and evolve is limited by the very system that allowed for their initial success. Without greater technological diversity and a willingness to embrace decentralized exploratory processes, the Tau are going to end up finding themselves outmatched by more adaptive, chaotic, and multi-layered systems like the Imperium or even the Tyranids. This focus on control and optimization highlights the double-edged nature of centralization. While it allows for rapid, coordinated growth, it limits the potential for a kind of blind variation and recursive complexity that fosters true resilience. In the end, the Tau may be setting themselves up for failure, not because of their enemies, but because of their inherent constraints in their own system. I want to say thank you for joining me on this deep dive into Warhammer 40K and Cybernetics. If you enjoyed this analysis, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and let me know down in the comments below which faction or concept you'd like me to explore next. Until next time, keep reading the Economicon.